Mr. Conti and Mr. Kimbrough. Did you hear me?
Oh, yeah, that's...
All right, gentlemen, I'm calling to order this meeting of the Finance, Taxation, and Assessment Committee. We are here today to hear a presentation regarding the Planning Department budget, the Buildings and Codes, Buildings and Regulatory Enforcement, is that it? Regulatory compliance. And also the Albany Community Development Agency budgets. We do have in front of us a PowerPoint presentation. We have received brief summaries as requested from each one of the departments. We have the budget items in front of us as well. And now we have Mr. Spencer's PowerPoint presentation. Gotten lengthier. Are we going to get through this in under an hour? Hopefully we can do the presentation in 30 minutes, and then get to Q&A on the operational side, and then we'll do the capital budget after that. I'm a little bit more confused about the capital budget, and hopefully we can straighten ourselves out on that. Present are committee members, Farrell, Robinson, and O'Brien. Also present is President Pro Tem Richard Conti, Councilmember Fahey, Kimbrough, Igo, Ballerin, Nane, and also present in the audience is our Director of Planning, Mr. Glass, our Director of Buildings and Regulatory Compliance, Mr. LaJoy, our Chief of Staff, Mr. Shea, and we have our City Clerk, Ms. Gillespie, and Kashana Parker, Deputy City Clerk, with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Spencer to do his presentation.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I'll probably just go pretty fast over some early slides. Brad as the director and commissioner, so it's sort of, my position is really to help a lot of this coordinating all the activities of the planning department, building and regulatory compliance, and the community development agency.
I do want to note for council members that the budget narrative is on page 64 and then goes over to page 65 for the Department of Planning, followed by the Buildings and Regulatory Compliance, and then ACDA is later on in the book.
So our mission is really one of a dynamic interdisciplinary office. We're dealing with not just the public and all the projects that come in from development or homeowners that want to do larger projects on their houses and things like that, but it's also dealing with larger projects within the city, a number of initiatives. So we're working with all the different departments within the city and trying to make sure we do all of this in a way that protects the neighborhood and really manages and promotes the land use and also guides sustainable growth within the community. So try to carry this out with the implementation of the Albany 2030 as well as the USDA. So we're always looking at how whatever we're doing is consistent with the Albany 2030 plan and how we keep bringing some of the goals and initiatives in the 2030 plan and making sure that that becomes part of all of our strategic planning and all of the work that we're doing. So the vision,
Can you put it up on a chair?
yeah.
It's all yours. Okay.
What's on the shelf?
the vision, you know, is building upon the city's rich history, diverse natural, cultural, and institutional human resources, making sure we're a global model for sustainable development within the city, revitalization, urban living, and really trying to create that balanced approach, economic opportunity, social equity, and environmental quality. So we want to make sure that we're doing this in a local way, encouraging citizen involvement, investment, and making sure it's a benefit to all of the residents. The goal is really to further the strategic planning initiatives, again, outlined by the Albany 2030. That is our larger blueprint that helps guide our land use plan, helps guide our growth, continue to refine and implement USDO and administering that. We understand that, you know, it's a living, breathing document. We're always constantly looking at ways to make things better, making sure that we're guiding development in the proper way. Removing obstacles to underutilized property. We want to make sure that we're providing those ways that we can eliminate community blight throughout the city. And educating part of the development community. So we always want to be partners with the development community as they're coming in. We don't want to be in opposition. We want to make sure that we're working within the construct of the USDO and the 2030 plan to make sure that these new developments are meeting the needs of the community. So under this budget, you can see a little bit of a growth in the planning department. So the fully staffed planning development department will consist of 11 full-time staff. Really, these are the activities we're doing to administrate land development through the USDO. So all of the major minor development projects that are coming in, all of the things that deal with the Historic Resource Commission, or zoning appeals, and then also help provide guidance and administration to the Sustainability Advisory Committee. We represent the city on a number of regional boards and committees, the Pine Books Commission, the Albany County Land Bank, Capital Car Share, and organizations throughout the Capital District. We administrate approximately 10 existing neighborhood plans, so we're either updating those plans or we're trying to implement some of the plans that are already out there, or looking at ways to do new plans in different neighborhoods that don't have those. And then we have at least 15 different grant projects, larger grant projects throughout the city. And each one of those, I think you've seen some of the other presentations, they involve layer upon layer of funding sources, each with different reporting requirements and funding requirements. So just administering those is a pretty complex undertaking. And a fair amount of staff time related to that. So all of this we're doing, and within our sort of portion of the city budget is about half of 1% of the total city budget. So it's a fair amount of work that we're doing, a somewhat small staff, and it's a lot of we're touching on a lot of different aspects throughout the city, not just the development that's coming in, but all of these initiatives that we're dealing with, and as well as future planning and future growth. So in this budget, these are the major changes you're going to see. So 3 new positions, and sort of removing 1 position. So one of the planner positions that we're creating by taking that confidential secretary as sort of the front person in the office and replacing that with a planner that also takes on some of those duties. And what that does is allow when people come into the front door, rather than just have somebody sort of act as a placeholder and say, you know, we'll take your name, somebody will get back to you. It allows somebody with a planning background to answer a lot of those questions up front, to be able to move those things a little bit further forward in a little more quicker way of doing it. So, and it also allows us to not sort of have mistakes where somebody thinks they understand the code, thinks they understand things, and they're trying to help out just to be proactive, but don't have that planning background. So it's, you know, we've been doing this for a little while already, one of the positions, because when that confidential secretary position was vacated, we moved somebody with a planning background into that, and so far we've had pretty good luck with that model. And then, so
I just
what
if I
they
can
do-
say something, just regarding that new position, it seems like Zach is the person that's kind of doing it right now, because when I ask questions, he seems to be able to
Yeah,
answer
so
right
Zach's
now.
been there a little bit longer.
Gotcha.
So Luis is the new planner.
Luis is
I like
also-
Luis.
Well, we're going to
Gotcha.
compare the two of them together, so Zach is there to sort of, you know, bounce things back and forth. So we try to, again, with our sort of open and collaborative environment there, it allows Zach to hear what's going on, and he can sort of guide the needs a little
No,
bit.
that's great, because, sometimes I used to wait a couple of weeks to get an answer back, but right
Oh,
there,
you
sometimes
do
when I
times.
ask, oh, I bet.
No, and again, we want to make sure that as soon as somebody comes in, because most people that come into the office, they don't have an appointment, they didn't, plan to be there, and we want to be able to at least answer as many questions as we can up front, and then if somebody's a little too busy, we can try to set up a time so we can meet with them in a more proactive way. So the senior project manager, this is somebody who's going to be dealing with a lot of the projects we're doing, a lot of the DRI projects. This is going to be doing a lot of projects that are sort of being done as part of the DRI in conjunction with the Albany Parking Authority. They're going to be funding a major portion of this. So that person is going to be working in and out, both in the office and then collaborating with all the parking authority. It may be somebody with a bit of an engineering background to help us sort of move these projects a little further along before engineering takes over, before it gets fully into the construction aspect of those projects. So we think this is going to help us. We have finding somebody with a lot of project management background. So I think this is a good position to have.
Do you have somebody in that position, or are they going to be putting in that position?
We'll be going out for this position. So, again, we've been sort of filling in on this. We've got staff that's pretty good at project management, but the project manager is going to really oversee a lot of these projects, but really somebody with that construction engineering background is going to be able to work a little bit better with the consultants and take these projects a little bit further along, so we don't have any delays in the project between planning and construction and execution. So that's one of the positions. And then there'll be one other additional planner that position is being funded by ACDA, and that planner is going to be dealing a lot with some of the neighborhood plans, working with ACDA on a consolidated 5-year plan, doing a number of things sort of cross between planning and ACDA. So we're filling out a lot of those things, hopefully driving a little bit more capacity within our department to handle a lot of these new things that we've taken on as a department. So this is the proposed budget. Again, you see the major changes in personal services. That's where those positions are coming from. So we had 1 planning position, so now there's 3 planning positions plus the senior project manager. Again, the senior project is being partially funded by the Albany Parking Authority. One of the planning positions is being funded by ACDA, and then another one is being partially funded by eliminating that confidential secretary position. But it's still cost involved in all of this. This is just the details sort of breakdown. You should have these electronically, and it's a little hard to see here. But no major changes in any of these positions. Sort of most of the changes are white collar, 1% growth in that. There is one position, the deputy planning position, where we bumped the salary a little bit more than 1%, mainly because of the amount of work that person is taking on in dealing with all the grant management on all of these projects and trying to not only deal with all these new incoming grants, but also trying to clean up a lot of our old grants and sort of setting the groundwork for this senior project management.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The city historian, I know it's a very small amount of money. Is that a statutory thing we have to have?
It is in the code.
And what are his duties?
I mean, a lot of it is sort of as a resource to the Historic Resource Commission. So if there are particular issues, we can get information on particular buildings. He can do some of the research for the HRC, providing background on particular sites if we need it. Not to the level of archaeologist or that kind of a position, but it's been in there for a number of years.
And it's always been at $2,000 for about a dozen years.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
Is that part-time?
yeah, it's a part-time.
Well, it is, but
Part-time.
Throw a title on somebody's job.
No, it's a stipend for
stipend,
somebody who
gotcha.
provides a service.
Is it Tony?
Tony
I meant to say.
Why is the, your performance, your budget report saying that, it's 100% and it's like $1,000 for this year?
I'm sorry.
For Tony, it's supposed to be $2,000,
Yeah,
but the budget reports it as, this performance report, shows it is 100% at like $1,000. You notice
I
that?
think it may, I don't know, I think I may have listed it as 1,000 in a previous budget, but it has been 2,000.
It says 2,000, but then for some reason it
Is there
says,
something in the encumbrance line?
oh, okay.
That's the percentage is derived from the
Okay.
actual expense and plus the encumbrance.
Okay, thank you.
Chris,
Yep.
okay, refresh me. What's the difference in the number of members from the BZA and the planning board?
So the BZA has 7 members,
Right, that's,
planning board has 5, and
okay,
historic
so that's a
resource
difference
commission
in,
has 9.
okay.
As far as what they get paid, we haven't really changed that amount. It's-
Okay.
At one point, the BZA had a lot higher workload than the
Yeah,
planning board, and it sort of shifted, so I think, in the next budget year, we're going to be looking, not this year, but next year, we're going to start to look at that. We're also going to look at whether the number by the ordinance is really serving us well. So, 9 might be a little bit too many for the HRC, 7 might be the right number for the BZA.
BZA, yeah.
Not sure, and 5 might be too small for the planning. I don't, again, we're gonna look at that, we're gonna study that, see where that is, and see, how many meetings we've had to cancel because of lack of
Bring the whole
quorum.
squad, right.
And so, but yeah, it's
Thank you.
hard to figure out why, how those numbers were set originally. So. So this is the deputy director. So again, this is slight increase from 67,000 to 71, 67 to 71. But this is really based on the supervisory role, the number of cases that this person has taken on, the grant reporting, as well as really managing all of our secret processes and things like that. So she's been a great asset. She's put in a lot of time and commitment into this. She's gone above and beyond, working on the Harvard Bloomberg challenge with the mayor and all that stuff on that. So, and this sort of puts her in line with a lot of the other deputy directors as well. So.
For council members, that's about a 5% raise.
Yeah, sorry. So this is that senior project management position. Just really talking about what that's going to be. Initially working a lot with the Parking Authority on a lot of the DRI projects, but those projects have city implications as well. So these are projects that we're going to be working on in conjunction with the Parking Authority. So this was a great way for us to sort of get that extra capacity and not have a huge outlay of money to do that.
Have you started the search for that position yet?
Not yet.
It's generally not good form
We
until you
figured
have
we would
approval.
wait till the budget was passed. So some of the initiatives we're doing in 2020, we have taken on a review of all small cell wireless permits citywide. We're working with the land use committee on the legislation on that, as well as the aesthetic standards. Again, that's one of those things where the FCC is coming with a pretty heavy hand on a lot of this, and we're trying to do the best we can to sort of coordinate these and make sure the impacts are as little as possible for homeowners and people like that, making sure that the aesthetic impacts are not so great within the...
Seems like all the
right
5Gs are up now on the real, too
Yeah, I
late.
mean, in our aesthetic standards, we push as much as we can to get them to co-locate, like on an existing utility pole, rather than putting a new pole somewhere else. We look at the spacing requirements, making sure that they can't put a pole right in the middle of somebody's, front yard, try to put them at the property lines, things like that.
Well, why I mention it right now is because I saw some trucks up on Euclid yesterday, and I've seen them around before, putting up wooden poles, and they're doing it in between the houses on Euclid and Lennox. And the one got a complained the most, the one on the corner outside his bedroom.
Yep,
He says, why didn't they put them back there? Well, I guess the drawback is they said there was no electricity there, but they're doing it for National Grid, so keep it in mind.
right, yeah, and it's complicated. I mean, a couple of times we've gotten cases where they were saying they were co-locating on a Verizon pole, but the Verizon pole was put in place there only for the 5G. And it's, you know, so it's a difficult thing, and the FCC has put us, you know, kind of tied our hands to some degree, but we're doing the best we can in terms of what we're allowed to do.
Chris, I have a quick question about that. Is there a limit as to the number that can go on in any one area, a pole in any one area?
We have put some radius limitations within the aesthetic standards and siting guidelines. I don't know technically what the limits are. There are, you know, any of the carriers are going to be looking at gaps in coverage where they can locate.
Is there any opportunity for community benefits?
That's one of the things that we're, you know, in terms of if they're putting in new poles or they're doing underground, we're going to be looking for opportunities to bring in some of the fiber optics, for potentially putting it in some of our street lighting so we can do cameras and things like that.
As a condition for
Yep.
being able to?
Well, I don't know that we can't make it a condition, legally. We can't just say you have to provide us with all this, so, but there are some fees that are involved, and I think a lot of them are willing to help out just to keep their projects moving forward. So.
Chris, are you aware of any of the health implications of 5G and the electromagnetic?
Yeah, I've read quite a few of those, and, you know, and I think Rob McGee, the Corporations Council, has put some stuff together in terms of, you know, where we are as a community, what we can do, what we can't do, you know, what those limits are. You know, I understand that there are both, you know, the associated health risks that we've heard about, as well as what the FCC is saying is a safe limit. So, you know, those are things that are still being fought out. You know, we can't, as a community, we can't say, you know, we're not going to let you because we think there's a health risk.
So, because I received quite a bit of emails from residents who are saying we are putting their health at jeopardy because we are allowing the rollout of 5G in the city with very limited knowledge about how it impacts people on a very individual basis as relates to their health. So, you know, yeah, personal concerns about this, and it seems like the train has left the station on it, but I would caution us to be mindful of how, you know, we are exposing residents to harm with the rollout. The other piece, and I don't know if your office is overseeing the contractors, but there was some contractors who installed some cellular towers or something of that sort on top of the theater in the first ward, and they used one of the residents' driveway, and they left her driveway a mess. It's been like that for several years. The trucks were so heavy that they completely destroyed her driveway, and so they have refused to fix it, and they're saying it's her responsibility to fight with the city to get her driveway repaired.
These guys are dangerous now, I got all the thing.
Yeah,
Five
and those,
feet.
you know, that's
I'm going up and down.
neighborhood properties and sewer
Rubber
properties
trees,
that
it's
are
too
installed, not necessarily in city right of way, correct?
It was installed on the city building.
I was on city road. Okay,
Correct.
so DGS, you know, Rick's saying that DGS is involved in that, trying to clear that up.
Because they kind of came to see if I had known anything about the installation, if there wasn't anything that went through my client, that we did it from DGS, and they had been working, I don't know what the status is, once they admitted, yeah, we're talking to the homeowner, I haven't heard anything after that. But it's definitely general services.
So the responsibility and oversight of this would be DGS versus
DGS,
yours?
because it's a city-owned building, that's engineering actually oversees anything that happens on a city-owned building. All these citizens?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So I just want to note, I received a lot of emails a couple months ago from people claiming to be Albany residents or, constituents that were not.
California.
Yeah, one was like from Albany, California. And they were like template kind of, emails, with the same content.
They
in
did
it.
have a
So-
local meeting though, and it was up to
And I know
Sylvia.
David Carpenter, who is very well respected in the department, New York State Department of Health, has been a leader on a lot of environmental issues, was leading a discussion. I think we all had a conflict that night for a meeting or something like that.
Repairing existing facilities that you inherited in June. There's a block of Brookline Street has been without its streetlights for 10 weeks. And they beautifully fill out all the forms that were on the website, and your contractor, whatever the name is, has not repaired it, and that seems to be an excessive amount of time.
Yeah, I know they've been to Verplank, they've done some background, they've done some underground investigation there. I thought that one at one point was fixed, and then there was an issue later on.
Not according to residents, it's been out continuously for 10 weeks.
Yeah, well, I'll follow up on that one. So again, a lot of the underground ones are a challenge, and these are part of the challenge is that National Grid doesn't have good records of where the feeds are. They don't have a lot of good information to give us.
I assume it's a straight line between poles.
Yeah, from one to the other.
Yeah.
Typically, but sometimes it goes across the street. But it's the feed that becomes the issue. So we end up with some problems with the grounds, and then, so I'll follow up on the Verplank one. I've asked what we're going to be doing, and I'll get to this later on in the presentation. What we're trying to do is put together this year a portal for not just development projects, but also building permits, and as well as complaints, which would be like code, streetlights, things like that, so people can see, that it's been open, what the status is. A little bit different than the C-click fix because it'll have exactly what department is next in terms of the approval, things like that. So.
I am going to stop
back
questions
to budget.
for a little bit.
Whoa.
What-
I have
Is it a budget question?
Yes, it is a budget question,
All right.
yes, and I think I was one of the first ones back on here. As relates to municipal.
We'll never get out of here.
As it relates to municipal internet, and we've been discussing it, saying that, once the full installation of the LED lights are installed, there's possibility that we might put smart nodes on there to provide internet in certain sections of the city. Can you give me an update on that?
Yeah, no, so the idea is that all of these have smart nodes. They can do a lot of different things. They can do, they're in communication, all the lights will communicate with one another as well as back into the overall grid of things. So we'll be able to look at all of them, understand whether there's a light out, whether there's problems with the electricity coming in, whatever the issues might be, whether the dimming is working or not working, being able to dim those lights. Then there are a lot of add-ons you can do, gunshot detection, or cameras you can use. The problem with the cameras becomes, Wi-Fi capability. You can't, for like APD, they use a tremendous amount of data. They have to actually have fiber optic coming in, and then they have to have the ability to either download that or store it. And sometimes you'll see APD pulling up to a traffic signal, opening up the cabinet, and they're downloading or using a flash drive to download some of that information. So in areas where we can get the fiber optic in, we can start to do some internet stuff. There's also some technology that Philips has just come out with some of these additional streetlights that will have all of that integrated. And we may have the capability to do some of that in select locations. But the street lighting program is not going to become a citywide internet program. So, but again, it's because all of that requires hardwired fiber optic, because the Wi-Fi is not robust enough to provide all of that.
Judy, one
All right,
fiscal question on the same thing.
quick.
Is it costing us anything? National Grid left lines completely surrounded by limbs, okay? Where parts of the city, they had a Splund company under contract. Right now, I know there's some trees out there that they won't be able to even get to the light fixture.
Yep.
And I guess we're overwhelmed with ours, so I'm not sure if we're going to have to hire extra help to do that.
Well, so the two things, so part of it is the contractor is responsible to clear the limbs away enough just to put the light in and to make sure that there's no blockage right there. They're also putting in the database and providing to DGS where they think trees need to be trimmed back in order to get better coverage.
Because I see some wires sitting right on the, or the tree sitting right on the limb, and the light's that far from it.
Yeah,
So it's
so
a
in
job
cases
for-
like that, where they need it just even to get in there and operate, they will remove, and they're doing that.
Okay,
As
I didn't
a-
know it was gonna be over and above, or,
No, there was already a contingency in there for that. They're not gonna be doing like, 20 feet either direction, but they will be noting each one and cataloging it and giving that information to DGS, so then we can go out and do that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the National Grid's not gonna be.
So that, they all have to get done before you finish your lights.
Correct.
So,
Well, I
yeah,
mean, as they go to the light and as they do the LED installation, they'll be doing the trimming right then and there. And then they'll be noting that
And then,
location for DGS.
I just worried about having to hire another company to do what,
Yeah, hopefully all of that gets handled through DGS.
Hope so.
All right, so we're going to be working with the BRC on an integrated software solution that's going to be a lot more robust than right now what we have through the internet. So part of the problem with that is if a project comes in and there's are certain triggers before they can get a building permit. If it's the planning board has made a condition, one of the conditions being that they have to do A, B, and C before they get a building permit, we have to sort of manually make sure that the building department knows that, or to make sure that they flag somehow an incoming building permit. So this new software will be able to integrate that. So as soon as we go through and put our conditions on it from the planning board, it will automatically make it impossible for the building department to issue a building permit, because that will have an electronic flag on it, which will prevent them from doing that. It'll also make sure that all of those approvals are carried all the way through the process in all of those conditions, right up through getting a certificate of occupancy. It's going to allow us to look better at projects, to know exactly when a project comes in. So there are projects that come in and may require either the Historic Resource Commission has to review it, or even just staff has to review it for a minor certificate of appropriateness. So sometimes those things get handled and they get put on somebody's desk, and it's not always easy to tell through the computer system where that is. So again, this is going to be a tracking software that's going to allow us to know exactly where a project is, whether it's waiting for planning approval, zoning compliance or something like that, or something with the HRC or certificate of appropriateness. A lot of these, and then on the next one, what we're looking to do is provide a portal through the website, but allowing the public to be able to see whether it's a planning project that's going through the planning board, whether it's a large building permit project, allow the public or even the applicant to see where a project is in that approval process. And also even some of the larger projects that are city initiatives, whether it's the South End Bikeway or Main Lane or any of those, to be able to see where we are within that process. So this is a very open portal that will allow people to really get a good sense of where everything is. And we'll be doing the same thing again with code enforcement issues. If somebody makes a code enforcement complaint, you'll be able to see whether that has been handed off and what the resolution of that is. Whether it's in court, and all the way through till a ticket is really closed.
Would that go to staff and people would reply to questions, or is it just one way that they can look?
Yeah, it'll be part of the workflow. So it'll be, not completely automated, but it'll be part of the workflow as somebody hands something off to the next, or whether it's going to court.
Speaking of the South End, but no, I'm only kidding. But that would be great, because then we wouldn't have to go body quite.
Well, it'll be good for us too, because a lot of times we get a call and somebody wants to know, dropping off the building permit, where is it? And, somebody codes has put it on Aaron's desk and then it gets buried, but there's no record that they necessarily did that, at least electronic. People keep track of it. But just to be able to see all of that and know where things are in the process on small things and large things is going to make a big difference and make it a lot easier for all of us, and make it easier for the public to know where things are. So, and then one of our other initiatives, and I hesitate to call it initiative, but really completion on, we have a huge backlog of older grant projects that we're cleaning up. So that's something we're hoping to do that and then take on some new grant projects in the next few years.
Chris, quick question. The collaboration with the Albany Public Library in providing Wi-Fi in certain parks,
Yep.
is that fully implemented in the parks?
I don't think it was yet. I know it's an ongoing project. I don't know what the status is of that, so I have not been involved. So this is, do you want to talk a little bit about the capital budget for planning?
Give us a overview,
Yep.
and then,
So a number of these are related to DRI. So number one, pedestrian experience improvements along Clinton Avenue. This is really looking at a number of crossings on Clinton Avenue near Broadway, North Pearl, as well as coming out of the parking garages. Really a whole bunch of improvements in that area.
How far up Clinton?
I think it goes at least past Tenbrook. So, and so this, the next one is illuminating pedestrian underpass. So as you're going into the warehouse district, you know, that railroad bridge, it's a really dark underpass. So there's a couple things that we're looking to do with that. Number one is improve that pedestrian connection there, so we got to have a better connection between the warehouse district and the rest of the downtown, making it safe and inviting. But there's an opportunity to do something with that bridge to really wash that color. And the reason we're looking at lighting is because then we're not actually touching the bridge and we're not dealing with trying to get a hold of the railroad and trying to get permits and all of that. So there's a lot of creative things that we think we can do with that to really create this nice gateway.
Can you actually put lights on the bridge, though? You're not doing that?
No, we would stay off the bridge and there would be
Directed at?
washing the bridge with light. So,
That's neat.
so then we're looking at a lot of the pedestrian vehicle corridors in the downtown, really looking at the improvements in the sidewalks and the parking, looking at all of those things in that sort of DRI focused area. Continuing with the Maiden Lane. Maiden Lane is really that primary connection, starting at North Pearl, going all the way to the waterfront. This was a project that we started quite a while ago. Originally, this project was a large performance place over on Jennings Landing. It was determined that was not really feasible, then it kind of moved over to sort of the other side of the bridge. It was just sort of focused on a few little improvements around there. And what we wanted to do was really create a connection, so when people are going down North Pearl or going down Broadway, that they see that there's this pedestrian connection that takes them to the waterfront. So this will provide a number of visual clues. It'll be lighting, some signage, some materials, some different things, you know, in the ground that will sort of intrinsically tell people that there is this connection. So right now, when you're going by on Broadway, you see that sort of parking lot that exists between the courthouse and the Dasty building. And then you see the staircase. This staircase looks like a staircase going to a parking garage. So a lot of people don't even know about that pedestrian connection. So I think this will create a real visual enhancement to that. There's a lot of improvements to Napoli Park, which is right at Pine Street and Broadway. So it's a pretty interesting project that we think is really going to do a good job, not just connecting the downtown to the waterfront, but also drawing people, like after events like Live at 5, into the downtown and getting them to explore a little bit more and see all the different things that are happening.
Now-
Then connector phase.
wait, so, this is a lot of money on that. And we previously had, I think, $250,000 approved, a $250,000 bond
Yeah.
that I think that we swept because it wasn't being utilized. Do we actually have?
That was design money, I think. That was for the design and engineering.
Oh, but I don't think that it was, I think a lot of it got swept, if not the whole thing, at some point. Maybe? No?
Don't think so, but
So, do you have any information about are like the designs done, are the specs
Yeah.
done on it? Do you have
what's
any?
the percent? Are we at 100% on the design? The design, and throughout the process, we've been doing the construction estimate. So we've got a full design. We can provide you with the drawings or whatever you want for those.
Yeah, I think for all of these, more specs are needed, more
I
information.
think we have less than the DRI, but we will provide you with what we have. Because the DRI is, you know, that's kind of a fast moving thing that we, you know, the initial DRI application were based on sort of a concept level, so now we have to,
And
Drill
which
down
one,
based
which
on
one
the
is DRI? I guess,
these first three are DRI.
okay.
As well as the Hudson River waterfront. Oh, no, that one. I think it's just those first three.
Yes, the three.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay. So,
and those were in the budget.
Yep.
And now we have these, the rest of them are add-ons from what was in the budget that we all received. I've asked Mike, because Michelle's not here, he sent out an updated page on these, on our capital budget again, because we found out about these, well, I found out about them yesterday, about these add-ons. And I think that there was just simply some confusion about what we need to bond and what we, was already covered by what we have bonded or, grants, et cetera. So on those, we are going to need more detail regarding the designs. Generally, what we're looking for is, justification, cost, designs, what other funding is available, what is the total cost, and then what is the timeline for construction in terms of, a lot of times we're approving maybe $250,000 this year and $250,000 next year because you don't need it. I know that happened with the South End Connector phase. I was surprised that we're,
So that was phase one. That was design and construction. Construction's going to ramp from going, it's already started. That's part of this year, at least more construction next year. So phase two is a little bit different. So part of the South End Connector, and I think this is kind of one of the unique aspects of the South End Connector, is as we did the feasibility study, we looked at a number of different potential routes to connect
to make a couple extra copies of
the
this.
Hudson River.
I mean, just let's see how, he has like 10.
The 2.5 mile gap. We looked at a number of different ways to connect it. One section of that is actually on Interstate 787. So this was a real opportunity for us to start to.
Kashana, I think just 3 more, probably.
3 more?
Yeah.
Start to really find a way to activate those sort of dead areas under 787. And these are projects which can help link the south end to the waterfront by that activity that's happening there. So our second part of that was additional funding that we received from the Office of Parks, Historic Preservation, and this is really about enhancements in that area, trying to create better lighting, maybe some play areas, things like that. So it's really about enhancing that connection.
So this goes from where to where? I'm sorry.
So this goes from, was it Church? The Church?
That's, it's a portion that runs
Under 787, I'm just trying to, it comes from that, there's a,
Here, don't.
To
there's
the Corning
ramp.
Preserve.
Yeah, to the Corning Preserve, yeah.
That, it's just that last
So
little
it's
piece.
kind of 1/3 of the total.
Oh, it's
But
1/3.
About that. So we've got, sort of, I would say, section one is South Pearl, coming from the head of the existing trail. Section 2 is the connector road or the frontage road that runs off of 787. The DOT was giving us some of that area to work within, so we didn't have to construct, from scratch there. And then section 3 is that area under 787. So each one is a slightly.
So we got to do this, otherwise there's no point to doing phase 1, right?
Right. Well, phase 1 is really going to connect it all. Phase 2 is really about enhancing that experience under 787.
Oh, okay.
So,
Chris, are we talking about finding
yeah.
the underpass on South Pearl here as a
This is further down,
So we're down,
towards Madison Avenue.
yeah, run those through Broadway. The Broadway and Slater comes in.
Okay, so, okay, so I have no issues with this. I think the only, what I would ask is I think it sends the wrong message to residents who have been asking for things like improved lighting in your neighborhood. For example, the underpass I'm referring to on South Pearl Street near Essex, where the residents have been talking about how dangerous it is, and they request that the city look at illuminating that area for them. That has fallen on deaf ears, and then here we are willing to invest in illuminating this pedestrian underpass. And so, and even with the Clinton Avenue pedestrian experience improvement, it stops at a certain place, which I think benefits those who are attracted to the city. But these types of improvements have not been benefiting the people who have lived in the city and complaining about their
Kathy?
pedestrian experience.
Does anybody need this?
Right, and I think there's a real
everyone has it except for
Richard has it?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as, so that thing that we're doing on the Livingston and everything, the gateway, the sort of trust bridge and all that. But as far as doing an underpass under the, any of those bridges, that's relatively simple. And the new LEDs that we use, it's similar to those connecting. We can do that fairly inexpensively. We can probably tie them into the overall street lighting project so that becomes monitored as well. So I haven't heard that concern myself. Otherwise I would have. What's that?
At the bottom of Mount Hope.
Yeah, yeah. I just haven't heard that voice and recently, so it wasn't on my radar. But it's a concern.
Chris, when you mentioned about the lights, okay? I just noticed today, Central Avenue, the view change. As compared to
The new ones or I don't think they've done any new ones.
Oh, so they're LED, so they wouldn't replace them.
What's that?
They're LED on Central Avenue. I'm talking about up from like Allen Street out past where ShopRite is. And that.
Yeah, there were a few that were owned by the city. There were LEDs up there. Those are probably get replaced anyway because they're an older style LED. They won't
I was
have.
going to say they're nice and bright.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they're the ones that you could dim and not.
Well, all of these will have that capability.
Okay.
All of those street lighting itself. So. Hudson River Waterfront Gateway, and these are just looking at the gateways into the Hudson River at two different ends, south end and north end. But this one is in particular is closer to the SUNY administration building. So looking again, trying to reestablish and mark those entrances to the waterfront as best as we can. That there's a fair amount of grant money involved in that. Again, 85,000 of that is grant money. The city is matching 15. But the problem with all of our grants is that they are reimbursable, so we have to spend the money first and then get the reimbursement. And that's why a lot of these end up being bonded.
Chris, I'm sorry, just going back to the South End Connector, is there a time when that's expected to be completed at all at this point?
That would be, we're hoping that we'll finish the design through the spring, and that would probably be later in the summer for the enhancements. The trail itself should be finished in the spring.
So you have for the South End Connector in next year's budget, $350,000. So is that another bond that you'd be looking for? Or another portion of a bond?
I have that in this year's budget?
In the 5-year plan. So we were just given this year's plan and the 5-year plan. Now with these projects added.
Split between 2020 and 2021. So we expect to start the design in 2020, move into construction, and then finish in 2021. So we split the bond over the 2 years, as opposed to bringing it all in 2020.
So it's interesting, the 5-year plan has $200,000, almost as though we're borrowing that, but the current year plan has this 101, 818. So what are we being asked to bond?
200,000. So
Why do we
the
need
city, well, because again, in this year, that's what we're looking at spending. The city portion is going to be 101.81. A grant, we're going to use 98,000 of a grant from historic preservation. So again, if we're looking at moving 200,000 right through the design phase and some of the work, we have to pay for it.
Is that reimbursement? The
The
101.
98, 182 is what
Oh,
it is.
okay, I'm sorry.
So, Mike, this gets to be kind of interesting situation where we're then borrowing and we're, for a South End Connector Trail, and then when we get reimbursed, we're paying that bond off with that, right?
Many times what Treasury will do is, some of these we expect, because they are some of these smaller amounts especially, that we actually won't go out and bond for them. But can ask to get the ordinances ready for those. Then what we do, when we know we're getting this much reimbursement, is we just
Float it.
Yeah, we float it, and then we pay it all back, and we don't actually ever even go out and bond for it. But we do need the ordinances for capital plans prior to that, in case we do need something to go out and start that project up.
Quick question.
So generally smaller ones we do front, and then we reimburse.
Question. So, just a point of clarification. So the grants that we've received, you already received those grants, or those grants that we need to apply?
We have the grant, we don't have the money. So we've been awarded a grant,
Okay.
project has to be complete, and then we apply for the reimbursement.
Okay.
So,
And the reimbursement, what percentage are we receiving?
again, where you see grant or other, typically, so like if it's 400,000, that is the grant, this is the city's match, that's the total.
So on the 5-year plan here, it does reflect the percentage for each one of these. So some of them are 49, 51, 85, 89. I think that's what it says. I forgot my magnifying glass.
So what are the terms of the bond? We do have to go on the bond. Will it be a 1 year or a 2 year bond?
Oh, yes, yes.
Because if I,
The 50
with my
Yeah.
knowledge correct, whatever you bond, you can't pay it back. So you have to get interest on the bond for the term of the bond. So is it going to be a 1 year bond or a 2 year bond? It's going to be reimbursed right away?
Generally, I have a conversation with the treasurer's office and Mike.
It would be something we would let you ban for, because that's a short-term note, and then you would reimburse that right away as soon as you got the grant reimbursement. So you could actually do all that within a year, because a ban is a short-term note, which is of 1 year or less.
And we can reauthorize the ban the following year if we don't get reimbursed that first year for it.
Thank you.
And generally, last year, we talked about shortening the term of the bond, but that doesn't make sense because then you're forced potentially to pay off the bond before you get the reimbursement, or pay off half the bond before you get reimbursement. And you don't want to be in that situation. So leaving the term the way it is, then during the term of the ban, you're paying down very little on the principal until you get the reimbursement on it. And that's the ideal situation to be in.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to touch real briefly on the other two, the BOA and the LWRP. So that's a brownfield opportunity area grant. And we have a south end and north end waterfront. And those are really going to look at that whole area, look at a number of the issues that may be causing issues with redevelopment, looking at contamination. It'll set us up for future grants, future ability for some of that development. The LWRP is the Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan, which we do have one from 2014.
I'm sorry, what is this called?
Which one?
BOA,
So BOA is the Brownfield Opportunity Area.
what?
Brownfield.
Oh,
Opportunity
brownfield.
Area.
Okay.
So we have two of those, and then we've combined those also with an update to our local waterfront revitalization plan. So we have one from 2014, so this is really an update. We didn't update the 2014 at the time because we wanted to finish the zoning for that area, so that there was a reason that we were coming back to the LWRP. So these are fair amount of grants, but we've combined them into one larger project, so we're going to be doing, obviously, one set of RFPs, we won't have 3 different projects with all sorts of different community engagement where people get tired of coming to these community meetings. So it'll be a much more impactful study and project doing it that way.
So the restoration plan that you're just getting that ready, it's not to finish it up.
It's not doing the actual work, but it's going to be,
Well, I thought you said to continue our restoration plan, so I didn't know if this was.
no, they continue the revitalization plan.
Okay.
So that's what it's called. All Waterfront cities have these LWRPs, and it's a requirement, so we're just updating ours to be reflective of the zoning and some of the other conditions that are going on down there. So the Tivoli improvements, as you know, those are DEC grants. They did a series of 5-year grants that they were providing the city sort of as a tribute to, I'm forgetting his name.
Oh, yeah.
Brother Yusuf.
Haywood?
Brother Yusuf.
Oh, Brother
Yeah.
Yusuf.
And so again, this is, we've been doing a lot of stuff down in Tivoli, removing invasive species, so you see the sheep down there, doing trail work, there's been some parking lot. But right now, we're in the process of a large, accessible blue trail that will go around the ponds and allow people, in wheelchairs to be able to access all of that area. Then eventually there'll be a lot of other smaller trail networks. But you can see that the city's portion of this is 0. We're just providing some in-kind. And the grant is going to be all from DEC, but we've got to construct all of this all at once. The design is almost complete. We're a consultant on that. So that will,
Is this the same location as the water department is doing the daylighting?
Yep, so we've been working with them in that area. So
Done a lot of work.
this will go out for construction in the spring. So again, that's kind of the bulk of that, and so we have to have that money available to do that.
Do you have a copy of that design?
We can provide that. So we'll do a summary on all of these projects with the information that you're looking for.
And, yeah, unfortunately, we're looking to start finalizing decisions on these first week in November.
Get those to you next week.
All right.
So we're going to continue to look at grant opportunities. We're always doing that to try to take on some of these initiatives, whether it's the CFA, BOA grants, looking at streetscapes with private development, trying to leverage some of that money, not just in terms of the streetscape, but other infrastructure. And we're also going to be doing. I didn't put on there, like, we're going to be doing a comprehensive review of all of our fees, whether it's planning board fees, zoning board fees, all of those things, to make sure that they are consistent with the amount of work that goes into reviewing them, but also consistent with what we're allowed to charge and being competitive with other communities. So that's pretty much it for the planning department.
Who are you going with for streetlight maintenance? Do you have a company you're going with?
Not yet. So NYPA is the New York Power Authority. Because the city or the state right now is looking at converting, I think, 500,000 streetlights across the state. NYPA is looking at the procurement of a number of maintenance contracts that will give us a much better buying power. So we're kind of waiting on that for NYPA to come forward with those contracts.
How long do you think that'll be?
I guess in the next couple of months they'll be out with at least some information on it. We won't really need it until next year, probably next June.
And right now, who's doing our maintenance?
Right now, the maintenance is sort of being done with the same company that's doing the conversion.
There is a website that you can go to.
Yeah, I've been there.
All right.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm old-fashioned. I like the cold.
Because some people were going to National Grid and they got
It's on the website,
redirected
too.
or something to this website where you can report lights out, as well as allegedly see-click fix.
Yep. So I think, right now what we have is we have 3 or 4 different ways people are reporting it, and I think we're going to try to consolidate it. So the C-Click fix is probably going to direct you to that same website. So we can get that helps us because it gives us, if you choose the right lane, it gives us the coordinates and things like that. So it's a little bit better for us for tracking. So, but that's all done through a larger Google Docs spreadsheet in the background. So.
When is the final installation?
So we're looking at approximately sometime next June. So the commitment was to do all of the conversions within 1 year. So the consultant had sort of a weekly number that they have to hit in order to
They're
be
moving
there.
pretty good. People like it.
So for a while there, they were a little behind just because that was part of the startup. So we asked them to put on a few more crews. They put on more crews. They're ahead of schedule because we want them to be substantially ahead of schedule going into winter because we know it's going to be a little slower going.
I'll tell the neighbors fall of
But
2020.
I think they're at about,
June.
3,500 lights so far that have been converted.
People like it.
So yeah, I like it. It's,
But ornamental lighting, is
Yep.
that different track or what's that?
Same thing, but the lead time on those is a little longer. So sometimes you'll see some areas where you think they should have done, but it's really just because either it's an ornamental and they don't have those fixtures yet, or it's a higher wattage. So along some of the areas, some of the higher crime areas, all the bodegas, we went with a bit higher wattage with a larger distribution. In most of the student rental areas, we're going much higher in those areas. And then a lot of the areas around like Judson Street, 1st Street, 2nd Street, a lot of those are much higher than what the typical conversion would have been because we wanted that ability to bring that light level a little bit higher as needed. But some of those are just a little bit longer lead time in getting those fixtures. So.
But when you're putting those bright ones in now, the constant bright, they can't be dimmed or raised anymore, right?
It depends on. I mean, most of them are going to be put in, I think, at least 90%, maybe even 100% of brightness. Some of the ones that in the areas that, like I was just discussing, will be kept down a little bit, and then as needed, they can be brought up higher. All of them will have that capacity to be able to be dimmed. And eventually,
Right now it's done manually to dim them.
no,
Somebody can do it like that?
yeah, it's all going to be through basically an app, which APD will have, and probably some of the supervisors will have those. And they can be done in groups, they can be done individually, they can be done based on a calendar. You could say these days or this time we want to go a little higher. So in the student areas, we know that APD brings in a lot of lights in the beginning of the year to supplement that, to make the students feel a little safer. So in those areas, we're going to go 100% brightness in the beginning of the student. The academic year, and then we'll start dimming it down after that. Time for cakes and eggs. No.
What's the turnaround time for replace lights that go off and may not be on the sun?
It's different because some of them we don't have the bulb. So if it's a high pressure sodium light and we don't have replacements for that, we're not going to go out and procure a lot of high pressure sodium lights to do that in the interim. And if it's a high pressure sodium where we have the LED conversions in the warehouse, those will be a pretty quick swap out. Otherwise, there's a little bit of a time lag in that. But it's going to be different depending on the situation. So a lot of times you'll see sometimes they've gone across the city because there's been some outages, and they had the LED conversions, so they just went ahead and jumped into that area and did those conversions.
Makes sense.
Sometimes you'll just see one in the middle of the street, but we're trying to avoid going up, having a guy in a truck going up and putting in a high pressure sodium light that is just then going to get replaced later.
Chris, so somebody recently complained about how the lights on Ramsey Place do nothing. Could be because he's a little bit older, and some of the older people, they need a little bit more brightness, at night or that kind of thing. So if you put something in at a certain wattage in a street like that, will you be able to go back and increase it if you get enough people sort of commenting that they'd like
Yeah,
it?
again, that's an expense, but it can be done. There's no reason that, if we looked at the entire street and the coverage wasn't there, or, the residents just felt it wasn't bright enough that it could be done.
Yeah, so
on Beverly Ave, in my district.
It's an expense,
It seems like
though.
since
You
they
can
did the
just
new conversion, one side of the street
If you
looks
replace it,
darker than
if you need a
one
light
side of the
to
street.
light,
I've had complaints about that.
does
So
cost
do you
more.
think it would just be a wireless issue or?
No, that could be, we can look at that, if you want to email me those particular locations, we can look at that. Sometimes that's based on distribution. So the LED lights are much better in terms of directing light, but so typically it's, you try to do more of a cutoff on the house side and you try to get better distribution towards the street. Sometimes if there's a park nearby, we do a more symmetrical distribution, so we get a larger coverage area. So that could be just a distribution issue related to those.
So, speaking of Hudson, where heavy college students reside, we have the LED conversions that have already taken place, but we still have the temporary emergency lighted towers that are still there. Is there a reason why?
They're still there.
Yeah, they're still there. Is there a way?
So I know DGS removed their set, but they're still,
They're still
they
in-
said that the day I contacted, all right, they must be APD then. I will, I'm meeting with the chief tomorrow, I'll tell him.
All right, thank you.
Quick question. So if someone calls and has an issue with lights being out, and they call it on the website, should they be expecting a call back?
No, not right now. What we're doing is just logging them in. And again, that's why I want to create some sort of portal so we don't have somebody who has to call somebody back, that we can, there can be a written answer that's just in there, or it can be logged in, that this is going to be replaced in this day, or this fixture has a longer lead time, whatever it is. We're trying to make it so we're not taking the contractors and the consultants so much off of what they're trying to do in terms of the conversions to do repairs, because we don't have a full maintenance contractor, so, during this interim. So this is our conversion phase. Once the conversion is done, we'll work with probably a different contractor that's going to be responsible for that. And again, these all have the smart nodes. We're gonna know about those right away, because on our GIS map, those will actually change color, and we'll get not just the color on the map, but also the reporting. We get a reporting from all the smart city nodes in terms of when there was an issue related to that.
Is National Grid communicating with you? Are they still getting phone calls from people saying, hey, pole, 16, the lights out?
Yeah, they're getting calls and
And
forwarding
they'll
to
come back to
me.
you?
Yeah, I got a call the other day from somebody who said it was too dark in front of their business, they needed some more light. And they gave me the address. I said, well, you happen to be in Rotterdam. He said, you can't help me? I said, no.
All right, everybody, I want to let Chris finish his presentation.
So that's it for that. I'm going to go right into the department building regulatory compliance. The mission, do you want me to go through these, or do you have these already?
Yeah.
Obviously, this is one of public health, safety, and making sure that, the visitors and investors.
I think you can move
understand
to,
what the codes are. One of the things that Rick and his department are doing a lot of, which is really about getting compliance, getting people to comply with the codes. And part of compliance is not just going in later on and enforcing them. Part of compliance is making it easier to get a building permit, making sure that somebody's there, that somebody answers the phone, that the applications are straightforward, that you can get an inspection in time. So they've done a lot in terms of customer service, and I think that's a huge component of getting people to comply with actually pulling a building permit. So the vision is to create that unique, or that culture of professionalism by being responsive, like we were talking about, proactive and efficient. With the ongoing training, the department's going to be better prepared for the staff, giving them the tools that they need in order to succeed. So a lot of that is through training, through equipment, through software, and striving through all of these things with quality, integrity, and accountability. And I think if you really look at this department and where it was 4 or 5 years ago, it's night and day really, in terms of for accountability, their ability to get out there and answer things, and really starting to do a lot more proactive enforcement. They also took the initiative this year of opening up till 7 p.m. on Monday evenings. So a lot of people complain. They want to get a building permit, but they work until 5 o'clock. And so now they're trying to do a project the next weekend, and there's just no way they can do it. So the planning department has, and ACDA have also opened up that night as well, up till 7 o'clock. The third-party electrical inspections, this will allow people, because there's always a bit of a lag in terms of being able to get to all the electrical inspections, so this allows people to bring in a third party to do those inspections. Amending the vacant building registry, this is going to allow the building department to get a lot more eyes on those vacant properties, so we can start to look at things before they become an issue, getting back in those engineering reports, getting the inspections on a more annual basis. The requirement for roofing and siding permits